Hi, this is all of the books that I read in May, June, and July. I haven't wrapped up anything since April because when it would be time to post my May wrap up was when I felt like it would have been tone deaf because it was Black Lives Matter and they still do, but I felt like it was not appropriate for me to sit here and list to you all the books I read in May when none of them were by Black authors. That would have not been good. And then when it was time to film my June wrap up, I was moving into this apartment in Austin where I live now. And so these are all of the books I read in the last 3 months. I still haven't read as many books featuring Black characters or by Black authors that I would like to, but my life has been a little bit different in the last few months than it was earlier this year, where I was reading so much and I was buying so many books. I haven't really bought that many books, but I did get a library card for the Austin Library, an e-card, so I can now get ebooks from the library, so I can now read more books and be even more conscious about what I'm reading and the voices I'm amplifying. That was a really long intro. There's more information though. I'm not going to be listing them in the order that I read them. Instead, they're like separated into categories. And I'm not very good at summarizing what books are about. So I'm trying to keep it brief because there's a lot of books. There are stacks here that you cannot see. There's also some ebooks and audiobooks that I read and listened to. So let's get into it. Okay, so the first category that I'm going to talk about are the series that I read in the last 3 months. And the first series that I'm going to talk about is the Truly Devious series by Maureen Johnson. I gave all 3 of these books 4 stars. They feature everything that I love. It's a boarding school. It's a murder mystery. It's super intricately plotted. The next series I read was the Skyward series by Brandon Sanderson. I read these because Chandler, booktuber, talked about Skyward in like a video she did, and she talked about how the main character was very annoying at the beginning and then gets better, and I super agree with it, and I loved the plot of this. I didn't realize I was gonna like sci-fi, but I did like sci-fi. I liked the characters. I liked the found family aspect in these books. I gave Skyward 4 stars, and then I gave Starsight 3 stars. I like Spence's character development in this, but this is like gonna be a spoiler, but it I like Spence's character development in this, but the plot of this book there's a fly in my apartment, can you see? It takes her out of the setting and away from the characters that we grew to know and love in Skyward. And like the characters in this were good. I wanted more time with my main homies from the first book, and so I didn't like this one as much, but I will probably still pick up the next book in the series. So 3 stars. Next book that's in a series that I read was A Dance with Dragons by George R.R. Martin. And I've said this before, I love his writing. I think he's a great writer. I honestly liked the last 2, but the 4th and this book, more, and found them more entertaining than books 2 and 3 probably. I read them quicker but I would like to know where the 6th book is. I gave this 4 stars. The next books in a series that I read were the first 2 books in the Raven Boy series by Maggie Stiefvater. This is the first time that I've ever read these books, and I really liked them. I liked the characters. I like that you get a bunch of different perspectives. I think I gave the Raven Boys 4 stars, and I gave the Dream Thieves 3 stars. These are good books. It's a good little found family, which I love. I like the found family. I like the speculative notion of it. I enjoy these. I think they're cool. I am a big fan of like one girl and then boys who are all friends, but homie, who does she like? I like that. So I gave Raven Boys 4 stars and the Dream Thieves 3 stars, and I liked them. Okay, next, I don't know if these are actually a series, but when I was recently in Walmart and Target respectively, I picked up the Bromance Book Club and Undercover Bromance. I liked these books. I read them both in one sitting. I gave them both 4 stars. I don't know if this is a series because the first one, this one, focuses on Gavin Scott and his wife Thea, and he's like trying to win her back. And he does this with the help of the book club that are all like prominent Nashville men doing things, and they read romance novels, and that's like how they win their wives back. And then this book focuses on the male love interest we met him in the earlier book, and Thea's sister Liv, who was in the first book and I didn't really like, but I loved her in this book. I liked getting to know her thought processes and things like that. And I loved Brandon Mack, the male love interest. I gave them both 4 stars. All right. Next, we're going to talk about the books that I reread. The books that I reread in the last 3 months. And I've been rereading more than I was because I have been buying less. Okay? Is Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda, or Love, Simon. There's a movie that's based on this book, and I read this book right when the movie first came out, and I really like it. It's very heartwarming. I like that Simon isn't like this character that, he has some flaws, but he's a fun little dude to keep up with. And I read this because I watched Love, Victor on Hulu, and I was like, I want to read that book again. So I read it again, and I watched the movie again, and I gave this 4 stars. Next, I read Nowhere But Here by Katie McGarry. I've read this book multiple times. It's a book that my sister bought. It's a Kindle. We have it on Kindle. And it follows, it's a romance. And it follows a girl who, her mom moved away and she was adopted by her stepdad, but she goes to stay with her dad for the summer because her grandma's dying. And her dad is a prominent member of a motorcycle club, and I don't know, the motorcycle club thing just chef's kiss. It's so good. And she falls in love with Oz, who just graduated high school, and he wants to be a member of the motorcycle club. And it's they're kind of enemies to lovers. Oz is tasked with keeping watch over here because there's danger or something. I don't know. It's a very good book. I gave it 4 stars. The next book that I reread is my favorite book of all time, and that is The Names They Gave Us by Emery Lord. This book is set at a summer camp, so if there's anything that I love in a young adult novel, or even I guess adult, I don't know, boarding schools or summer camps. That's like my jam. And the main character of this book, Lucy, finds out that her mom has cancer again. And she goes to this camp and she's a counselor, and there's like some love, but it's also like her struggle with faith. And I don't think I've ever related to a character more. It deals with like faith and not really grief, but like the possibility of grief, I guess. And there's a little romance, there's a little like a good close-knit friend group. I love this book so much. I love this author a lot as well, but I read this book every summer like clockwork. I think I also read it last December. You know, I think about this book all of the time. It is hands down one of my favorite books, and I gave it 5 stars, if you couldn't tell by me raving about it. Next book, this is the last book that I reread in the last 3 months, is this book by Sarah Destin called The Rest of the Story. This book follows, it's like a if you've read any Sarah Destin, like I have read a lot of Sarah Destin, I love her books. I like the standalone nature of them. I'm just a big fan. But it's set in over a summer. This happens like over 2 weeks, but it follows, what is her name? Just the main character's name. Emma Saylor. And her mom has like, way before the book started, her mom died of an overdose, and her mom was a drug addict. And she goes and stays with her mom's parents and like her mom's side of the family, who she hasn't seen in years and years and years. And she like is exploring the history of her, like what her mom and like her mom's friends, how they grew up and stuff. And she's like finding her place in this family again. And she also, there's like a little romance that happens. And it also, like the names they gave us, like what's in a name, you know? I gave this book 4 stars. I really like it. Yeah. Next, we're gonna talk about the memoirs that I read in the last 3 months. The first one is You're Not Special by Megan Rinks. Megan Rinks taught me how to fishtail my hair. I've watched her YouTube channel for years and years and years. And I love how open she is on her channel and like just in general about her mental health struggles. I liked this book, but some of it read a little self-helpy. Like I really liked the parts of the book where she was talking about her and giving us like stories from her life, but there were some parts of it where she was just like giving advice, and that's like not what I want from a memoir. I just hit myself in the face with this book. So I gave this book 3 stars because she gets really vulnerable in this book, and I love that, and I love learning about her life, and that's why I read memoirs. But I didn't care to learn lessons. I don't want to read a self-help book. So 3 stars. The next memoir I read is Smoke Gets in Your Eyes by Caitlin Doughty or Dowdy. I don't know how to say your last name. This book chronicles the author's time spent working at a crematorium in San Francisco, and her I don't know. It's really good. Paperback Dreams raves about this book. That's why I picked it up. And I gave it 4 stars. I really liked it. I liked like the insights that it brought to the death industry, and which is not something that I think about often. You know, I don't think about the death industry. That's not something that I encounter in my daily life. But I'm glad that I know this stuff now. So 4 stars. And the next memoir that I read is The Beauty and Breaking by Michelle Harper. This book is a lot like Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, in the way that in this book she chronicles her time by like highlighting various dead people that she cremated. And in this book, Michelle Harper chronicles her time spent as an ER doctor, by focusing on patients she had in different times of her life. And I gave this book 5 stars. I really, really liked it. I liked the insight it brought into healthcare, and also like the author is a Black woman, and so the times that she had to like deal with racist people and like working her way up and at the various places she worked, she points out a lot of like problems with the healthcare industry, and she also like talks about meditation and yoga and how she has found like peace. And I gave it 5 stars because I really, really liked it. And then I read a nonfiction book, because I'm trying to be continually educating myself. So I read Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by, I'm gonna butcher this, Renee Edo-Lodge, or Edo-Lodge, I should have looked this up. I read this book on audio, and it's like super educational, and I don't often think about race and racism in other parts of the world. And if you didn't know, this book, it focuses on racism in England, but it has like insights that can be applicable everywhere. I gave this book 5 stars. I learned a lot, and I'm excited to continue my education on anti-racism. The next 2 books that I read are young adult books. I read The Fountains of Silence by Rita Sepetys for a book club this is the only book that I participated this book club in because I'm broke as fuck. But I read it for a Taylor Swiftie book club, okay? This book, what is this book about? I gave it 4 stars. I liked it, I enjoyed it, but none of it is memorable to me now. The next YA book that I read was memorable, and I will be talking about this book for so long, and it is With a Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo, or Acevedo. I'm not doing good. But I got this book on audio, and I loved this book. This is like top 5 books that I've read this year. It chronicles the main character, whose name I can't remember now, and I don't have the book in front of me to tell you. She's a senior, it chronicles her senior year, and she's also a teen mother, but it's not like, I don't know, there are a lot of books and media and shows out there about an accidental pregnancy or a teen pregnancy, and while the girl's pregnant or like right after the baby is born, but her daughter is like over a year old, and so it chronicles that, and it's like she wants to go to culinary school, and she's like really good at cooking, and her cooking like makes people super emotional and reminds them of specific times. There's a little romance thrown in there, but I just have never read a book about this specific time in someone's life. It was so good. Like the writing, I got emotional so many times. Acevedo like really knows how to pack a punch. It was her reading it, and so that was really good. There were so many really good details in it. Like it mentions FAFSA, which is something that everyone in America knows about and deals with, but I've never seen mentioned in a book before. Even though I've read many books about students in their senior year, and so I really enjoyed it. If you can't tell, it was 5 stars. Okay, next we're going to talk about all of the other books that I read, the fiction books, and I didn't really know how to categorize these. First one in this category that I read was Normal People by Sally Rooney. I did not like this. I finished it, but the writing style made it really, really hard to connect with the characters. It was like the characters were at a distance, and I really like to have my characters close to me. I want to know everything. I want to understand them. I want to build connections with them, and I did not connect to these characters because of the writing style. And I didn't really care. You know, like I read it, I finished it, but I didn't care. So I gave it 2 stars. The next book I read in this category is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. This book is a little torturous, but the writing is beautiful. Like, I've never read a book with writing this good. The descriptions and the characters are so good. I wish that we got a little more focused on JB and Malcolm, because like the description says that you're falling for boys, but really it's a story about Jude, and a little bit Willem. But I loved this. But the critique it gets about being torture porn or whatever, very valid. So I gave it 4 stars. Next, I read Happy and You Know It by Laura Henkin, and this is a book that chronicles, it follows a Mommy and Me group and a singer who recently left a band, and she like sings for the children, the like babies. And drama ensues from there, and it was not what I was expecting when I picked up this book, and it was really surprising. Like the ending is kind of a little thriller. I don't know. I really liked this. I enjoyed it. I gave it 3 stars. The next book that I read was An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. This book was okay. It's like these robots pop up everywhere, all over the world, and this girl like makes a video about them, and she becomes like famous, like social media fame, and she then and it's what ensues from there, and it's like a commentary on fame, but also sci-fi, and it was entertaining and it was good, but I don't know if I'm gonna read the next one, because I don't know if I care that much. It felt like it was trying to do a little bit too much, but I was pleasantly surprised that there was a little bisexual representation in this book, which is always really fun, to get a little rep in there, you know? So I gave it 3 stars. The next book that I read because everyone raves about it on BookTube. Everyone's like, this is so good. I don't know how I felt. Actually, I do know how I felt. It's a little overhyped. And that's Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. This is about a girl in New York who gets, what happens to her? She house sits this super fancy hotel, but there are weird rules, not hotel, apartment building. There are a lot of rules that she has to follow, and it's a little fishy, and it's like a thriller, and it's what ensues after, it's thrilling. But it wasn't that thrilling to me, personally. I don't understand why everyone loves this book. It was just okay. It wasn't that thrilling. I've read young adult thrillers that are more thrilling than this. And I didn't really like the main character. I thought she was kind of stupid. So I gave it 3 stars. I might pick up another Riley Sager book, but I don't know. Because everyone loves this and says it's so great, but I didn't think it was that great. I thought it was just good. And then the last book that I'm going to talk about that I read in the last 3 months is Want to Watch by Kate Stamen London. This book follows a plus size blogger that gets, like, she rants about how there's not diversity, especially in, like, people who aren't pretty or people who are fat, on a show that's basically The Bachelor. And then she gets called on to star in the show. I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically The Bachelor. The fly flew in here and I almost got it. It's called Main Squeeze. And then it's like her journey on that, and obviously it's a romance. Like, homie does fall in love. But I like this a lot more than I thought I was going to. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was really good. I thought, you know, it was good. I don't. So that's all the books that I read in the last 3 months.